TIAN X Science is where science meets the unknown. And my name's TIAN. I'm from China.
In human history, there exists a mysterious list of kings. The first 8 kings ruled the earth for 240,000 years. Who exactly were they? A long, long time ago, gods once ruled the earth. Contrary to our imagination, they did not just watch humanity from afar in the sky, nor did they merely issue orders to mortals. Legend has it that they directly ruled humanity for over 241,000 years. So, who were these kings with such astonishing reigns? What was their rule like? In this episode, we will uncover these answers together. In the early 20th century, the world was not yet ready for the impending discovery. An archaeological team unearthed an extraordinary artifact beneath the ruins of the ancient city of Nippur. Led by archaeologist Hermann Hilprecht, the team found a clay prism during their excavations in Nippur, located in modern-day Iraq. This prism is quite small, standing less than 20 centimeters tall, yet the content inscribed on it fundamentally challenged our understanding of history. This artifact later became known as the Weld-Blundell prism. Engraved on this prism is a list of kings. Indeed, the figures recorded on it are not mythological characters, but rather a list of rulers documented in an official, administrative tone. Even more shockingly, this document records a lineage of rulers spanning thousands of years, which later became known to science as the Sumerian King List. However, what truly astounded scholars were not the names of these kings, but the durations of their reigns. The clay tablet indicates that the earliest kings each ruled for tens of thousands of years. If the average human lifespan is only about 100 years, what is the scientific reality behind these numbers? Could it be that these kings were not human at all? According to the King List, the first 8 rulers collectively governed the earth for 241,200 years. Some ruled for 28,800 years, others for 36,000 years, and one king even ruled singularly for 43,200 years. What is genuinely perplexing is that after documenting these unimaginable eras of rule, the text abruptly transitions into a timeline verifiable by modern historical science. For instance, a later king, Gilgamesh, not only had a normal human lifespan but also left behind concrete archaeological evidence. If the latter half of the list is authentic and verifiable, on what empirical grounds should we dismiss the records of the first half? This seems to point to only one possibility. These incredibly long-lived kings might not have been ordinary humans, but rather entities perceived as divine beings. If you are not yet familiar with the Sumerians, a brief introduction is necessary. They represent one of the earliest civilizations on Earth, settling in the southern region of Mesopotamia, which corresponds to modern-day Iraq and Kuwait. This civilization existed roughly between 4100 BC and 1750 BC. The Sumerians built a highly advanced society, yet their king list records incomprehensible lengths of reigns. Consequently, historians have long preferred to interpret these records as symbolic mythology. They argue that the first 8 kings are merely metaphorical, representing the mythological narrative of an ancient civilization. The fundamental problem is, if this is purely mythological, why would the Sumerians use such precise mathematical figures to record these reigns? Such meticulous numerical documentation does not read like a description of fantasy. More curiously, this phenomenon is not isolated to the Sumerian civilization. The ancient legends of Babylon, India, and Egypt all mention the existence of exceptionally long-lived rulers prior to the Great Flood. Yes, the very same Great Flood that permeates mythological records across the globe. According to the Sumerian King List, the Great Flood occurred precisely after the reign of the 8th king concluded. A global catastrophe descended, sweeping across the world and completely wiping out the old era. Interestingly, modern geologists have indeed identified a period of significant sea level rise around the time these Great Flood legends emerged. Thus, the question is no longer whether this is a mere myth. The real scientific inquiry becomes, before the emergence of humanity, who exactly was ruling the earth? Let us delve deeper into this king list. Before the advent of cities, before writing was invented, and before the wheel was crafted, there was a settlement widely considered the first city in the world. Its name was Eridu. The Sumerians firmly believed this was the very first city in human history. More importantly, they maintained that this city was not established by nomadic tribes, but was constructed upon the direct command of the gods. The Sumerian King List contains a truly astonishing statement. Kingship did not originate within human society. It descended from heaven. At the center of this divine order, one name is repeatedly mentioned, Alulim. He is recorded as the first king of Eridu, but that is not the most striking part, as the Sumerians even proclaimed him to be the first king on earth. Ancient clay tablets depict Alulim not as a tribal chief or a common warrior, but as a ruler possessing extraordinary wisdom and prestige. He did not inherit the throne through bloodline. He was chosen and officially appointed. At the temple ruins of the ancient city of Eridu, long buried by golden sands and time, legend says that Alulim once ruled the city from the top of a towering ziggurat. That structure gleamed under the sun, appearing to visually connect the sky and the earth. In Sumerian lore, this was the exact dimensional nexus where heaven and earth met. Alulim's reign is regarded as the official dawn of kingship descending to the mortal realm. Perhaps it was at that very moment humanity first realized they might not be alone in the cosmos. If the preceding story already sounds incredible, what follows is even more astounding. The Sumerian King List documents that Alulim ruled for exactly 28,800 years. That is correct. Not 100 years, nor 1,000 years, but 28,800 years. Modern scholars often attempt to assign symbolic meaning to this number, but the Sumerians themselves did not see it that way. The figures they provided are highly precise and recorded according to a rigid mathematical system. In the Sumerian numerical framework, 3,600 serves as a base unit known as a sar. Alulim's reign equals exactly 8 sars. To the Sumerian mind, this was not an absurd number, but a cycle intimately intertwined with cosmic order. Fascinatingly, when researchers compare these figures with the records of other ancient civilizations, a striking cross-cultural similarity emerges. In ancient India, ancient Egypt, and even in certain religious genealogies, exceptionally long-lived rulers frequently appear, and almost all of these enduring rulers belong to the exact same era, the time before the Great Flood. Whether these numbers are symbolic or literal, they all seem to hint at an epoch where rulers were considered to be more than just ordinary humans. They might not have been truly immortal, but they seemingly followed a biological law entirely different from that of common mortals. Alulim was the first of these mysterious rulers. However, in the 1970s, an author named Zecharia Sitchin proposed a far more radical perspective. He suggested that Alulim might not have been human at all. According to his interpretation, the rulers described in Sumerian texts were actually an extraterrestrial race known as the Anunnaki. Sitchin theorized that these beings came from a distant planet, arriving on Earth in ancient times to establish human civilization, and subsequently ruled over humanity for tens of thousands of years. Naturally, mainstream academia has consistently rejected this hypothesis. Yet this theory continues to captivate a massive audience because strikingly similar stories can be found in archaeological myths worldwide. If all of this holds true, then Alulim was not just a king. He might have been the very first true ruler in human history. Following the end of Alulim's reign, kingship did not return to the heavens, but was passed down to the second ruler of Eridu, Alalngar. According to the famous clay prism, Alalngar ruled the earth for a staggering 36,000 years. This figure surpasses even Alulim's reign, continuing the era of divine governance. In that epoch, kings were not viewed as ordinary mortals, but were recognized as guardians appointed by a higher celestial power. So, what was the nature of Alalngar's rule? Ancient Sumerian texts describe him as a ruler wielding immense power and profound strategic foresight. Legend states that he propelled the establishment of early governance systems, instituted religious orders, and actively engaged in urban development. Although archaeological records detailing his specific life are scarce, his name repeatedly appears across multiple verified versions of the King List. One thing is almost mathematically certain. During Alalngar's reign, Eridu flourished immensely. The city was not only a religious epicenter, but gradually evolved into a sophisticated urban center with complex civic planning. Many architectural structures appeared to precisely align with celestial positions. The layout of the temples was even believed to correlate with specific stellar constellations. If Alulim ignited the initial spark of kingship, Alalngar institutionalized this dominion into a functioning system. He was not just a ruler descending from the sky, but rather someone who established a systemic order on earth that seemingly originated from the heavens. And all of this commenced in Eridu. But a massive scientific anomaly arises here. Archaeologists have discovered ancient architectural ruins in Eridu, dating back to 5400 BC, including what might be the oldest continuously functioning temple in the world. Strangely, these structures exhibited highly mature design standards right from their inception. Whether analyzing the layout, civil engineering techniques, or architectural orientation, everything appears exceptionally sophisticated, as if this knowledge pre-existed their actual construction. This phenomenon has prompted bold new hypotheses among researchers. They postulate that during Alalngar's reign, Eridu was perhaps not merely an ordinary city, but more akin to an operational base, possibly even an outpost for a non-human civilization. If you find yourself questioning this narrative, you are not alone. Proponents of ancient astronaut theories passionately argue that Eridu's architectural layout, astronomical alignments, and extreme antiquity all imply that the city might have been deliberately engineered rather than organically developed by early human civilization. If Alalngar truly ruled for 36,000 years, the biological and historical mystery deepens further. What kind of advanced life form could live that long while simultaneously orchestrating the rapid construction of a metropolis? Some offer a very straightforward, albeit controversial, answer. Perhaps he was not human. If Alalngar successfully institutionalized divine rule, the third king, Enmenluana, aggressively expanded this dominion even further. According to the Sumerian King List, Enmenluana ruled for exactly 43,200 years. This equates precisely to 12 sars, representing a complete mathematical cycle within the Sumerian numerical system. Such remarkable precision is hard to ignore and does not read like an arbitrary, fabricated myth. Even more intriguing is that his center of geopolitical power was no longer Eridu, but another equally enigmatic city called Bad-tibira. In ancient texts, this city is referred to as the City of the Divine Furnace. Legend has it that this was the primary location where sacred metals and celestial materials were first brought to Earth. Consequently, Enmenluana's reign is frequently associated with massive ambition, systemic industrial order, and high-yield production. This leads modern researchers to deduce that his role might have been heavily geared toward technology and industry, rather than purely religious governance. Unlike his predecessors, there are not many mythological tales recording his daily deeds, but his name heavily implies a different kind of authority, a tangible power manifested through advanced technology and craftsmanship. What piques scientific curiosity even more is that this city maintains close operational ties to celestial gods in several ancient legends. A prevalent viewpoint suggests that this specific location was once a crucial stronghold on Earth for these so-called celestial beings. Let us first scientifically examine his specialized domain. In many ancient human cultures, metallurgy has consistently been revered as an incredibly sacred craft. Extracting raw ore from the earth and forging it into advanced tools or lethal weapons was an ability once universally believed to be granted exclusively by the gods. In Sumerian mythology, the entities that taught humanity how to forge metal were not ordinary human artisans. They were vividly described as beings originating from fire, stars, and stone. As the sovereign ruler of Bad-tibira, Enmenluana stands at the very epicenter of this technological and mythological narrative. Interestingly, this archetype of a deity mastering the sacred art of advanced forging appears in historical records worldwide. Prime examples include the god of fire in Greek mythology, the creator god in Egyptian mythology, and the god of craftsmanship in ancient Hindu mythology. Astonishing historical similarities exist among them all. Enmenluana seems to represent precisely this advanced archetype. To him, forging was not merely a basic technical process, but a profoundly sacred, almost cosmic ritual. Just like his 43,200-year reign, Everything carries a profoundly mysterious and grandiose symbolic meaning. Following Enmenluana, the fourth king of the ancient era steps onto the stage, Enmengalanna. He also hails from Bad-tibira, and his name is similarly etched into that famous clay prism. According to the King List, he ruled for 28,800 years. This figure is mathematically identical to the reign of the very first king, Alulim. But if Alulim symbolizes the descent of divine authority, and Alalngar represents the establishment of institutional systems, then Enmengalanna embodies an entirely different force. This power is hidden right within his name. Enmengalanna roughly translates to master of the celestial laws. In the Sumerian tradition, divine laws refer to the cosmic order bestowed upon the world by the gods. This implies that Enmengalanna was not merely a ruler. He was the ultimate guardian of this sacred knowledge. Unlike his predecessors, he does not seem to be renowned for warfare or urban expansion. Instead, he resembles a sovereign who conversed with the cosmos. During his reign, Bad-tibira maintained its enigmatic status. However, this time, the city's significance transcended being merely a metallurgical hub. It transformed into an advanced research center for celestial mechanics and cosmic laws. Consequently, some researchers hypothesize that humanity began to truly comprehend the rhythms of the universe precisely during the era of this king. So, when you ponder the origins of astronomy, perhaps you should remember this king who ruled for 28,800 years, Enmengalanna. Observing the starry sky seemed to be his profound specialty. Whether you are a Scorpio or a Sagittarius, it is hard to imagine that the astrological and astronomical knowledge we hold today might trace its earliest roots back to this ancient ruler. He was not a king who simply recorded seasonal changes. He was an individual capable of reading the sky as if deciphering sacred scriptures. Yet, the story does not end there. Enmengalanna's astronomically connected style of governance has also given rise to alternative scientific and historical theories. Some researchers suggest he might not have been just a scholar, but a literal representative of the stars. Certain historians have even proposed a bolder hypothesis. These ancient rulers were perhaps neither entirely human nor entirely divine, but rather a hybrid existence bridging humanity and divinity. Their primary mission might have been to maintain a specific equilibrium on Earth. To use a modern technological analogy, Enmengalanna operated much like a system administrator spanning across time. His rule was not about governing a nation in the traditional sense, but about sustaining a specific resonance and cosmic order between heaven and earth. Because of this, some researchers have bestowed upon him a highly evocative title, the Celestial Engineer. However, if you think the preceding stories are sufficiently mysterious, the next king to emerge will likely leave you even more astounded. His name is Dumuzid. In the ancient king list, he is the next ruler of the antediluvian era, also known as the Shepherd King. His name not only appears in the Sumerian King List, but also features prominently in later Mesopotamian mythology. According to official records, Dumuzid ruled for exactly 36,000 years, continuing to govern the land from Bad-tibira. But Dumuzid's narrative is entirely different from those of previous rulers. In many legends, he is no longer documented just as a king, but as an entity existing somewhere between a god and a mortal. Why is this the case? Because Dumuzid's most famous story is not about military conquest or civic construction, but about his complex relationship with the goddess Inanna, along with his symbolic death and rebirth. Yes, in ancient lore, Dumuzid was a king who died and subsequently resurrected. Because of this, he was titled the Shepherd, symbolizing an entity that guards and guides all living beings. In numerous ancient hymns and myths, a famous epic is frequently mentioned, the legend of Inanna's descent into the underworld. In this epic narrative, Dumuzid is one of the pivotal figures of fate. Unlike other kings, Dumuzid seemingly assimilated gradually into the divine realm. Over time, his legacy shifted from political dominion to being endowed with profoundly sacred significance. Soon, people no longer viewed Dumuzid as an ordinary sovereign. The Sumerians began to worship him as the deity overseeing botanical growth and the cyclical renewal of the earth. His story later appeared continuously across various myths, creating striking parallels with the themes of death and resurrection found in many subsequent global religions. In the legend of Inanna's descent into the underworld, Dumuzid was ultimately chosen to take her place in the realm of the dead. His penalty dictated that he must spend half of each year in the underworld. This biological cycle symbolizes the decay and death of the seasons. Yet, with the arrival of every spring, he would return anew. This cycle of death and resurrection later became a recurring mythological archetype in numerous religions. This raises a critical scientific and historical question. Was Dumuzid merely a king deified after his death, or was he never an ordinary human to begin with? According to the Sumerian King List, Dumuzid ruled for 36,000 years. This highly precise figure is impossible to ignore and is deeply saturated with symbolic meaning. More importantly, his gradual transition from a king to a deity seems to mark a critical inflection point in the king list. After his reign, the Sumerians seemingly realized that the rulers they faced might no longer be ordinary mortals. Dumuzid not only commanded the realm of death, but also possessed the capability to return. And much like his deeply mysterious reign, his influence has never truly faded from human history. The next king to appear in the king list does not hail from Eridu, nor does he come from Bad-tibira. Instead, he originates from another deeply mysterious city, Larak. This is a city that remains undiscovered by modern archaeology to this day. The name of this king is En-sipad-zid-ana. Much like the preceding rulers, his reign extended for a massive 28,800 years, which equals exactly 8 complete SAR cycles. Records concerning this king are exceedingly scarce. He left behind almost no mythological hymns or legendary epics. Nevertheless, his documentation in the king list remains exceptionally precise. So, what exactly makes this king so special? What truly sets En-sipad-zid-ana apart is not the specific records about him, but rather the city he ruled, Larak. Larak is documented in Sumerian mythology as one of the 5 ancient antediluvian cities. Strangely enough, up to the present day, humanity has yet to discover any definitive archaeological ruins of it. This complete vanishing act actually deepens the scientific intrigue. If the Sumerians regarded these ancient cities as sacred epicenters, and Larak was undeniably one of them, why exactly was it so important? Ancient texts offer very little information about Larak, often merely mentioning it in passing. On one occasion, it was described as a city of healing and judgment, potentially associated with the deities of warfare, agriculture, and law. Some researchers postulate that this city might have been located in northern Sumer, somewhere near the Tigris River. Others propose an alternative perspective. Perhaps Larak was not a physical geographic location at all, but rather a symbolic manifestation, a sacred city existing purely on a spiritual plane. But there are even bolder scientific theories. Some researchers suggest that ancient cities like Eridu might not have existed in isolation. Instead, they could have been nodes in an ancient, globally distributed network. In other words, Larak might have been an integral component of an ancient energy grid system. Under this hypothesis, these cities are believed to have been constructed by the gods to regulate natural and spiritual energies flowing between the earth and the cosmos. If this holds true, then the identity of En-sipad-zid-ana completely transforms. Within such a system, he was not a king in the modern political sense, but rather a guardian tasked with maintaining planetary equilibrium. His reign perhaps never truly vanished. Rather, he, along with the city he governed, was simply concealed from human perception. It sounds incredibly cryptic, does it not? But the story of the Sumerian King List is not over yet. After En-sipad-zid-ana, the next ruler takes the stage, Enmen-dur-ana. The city he ruled was called Sippar, which is also one of the 5 ancient cities predating the Great Flood. According to the King List, his reign lasted for an astonishing 21,000 years. This figure similarly aligns perfectly with the mysterious Sumerian numerical system and its sacred cycles. However, Enmen-dur-ana is famous not solely for the length of his reign. Ancient texts refer to him as a king possessing an extraordinary, direct connection with the divine. It is said that he received sacred cosmic wisdom directly from the heavens. Imagine a sovereign capable of directly communicating with the sky. Such a profile is already steeped in legendary mystique, but the most astonishing myths are yet to come. One of the most cryptic claims about Enmen-dur-ana is that he was physically taken up into the sky, bypassing biological death entirely. This account immediately brings to mind another ancient historical figure. In the Hebrew tradition, there is a prominent character known as Enoch. It is said that he walked with God and was ultimately taken away, never experiencing death. The striking parallels between these two legends prompt numerous researchers to ask a profound question. Whose story is closer to the historical truth? Or could it be that both actually originate from the exact same ancient mythological source? In the texts of ancient Mesopotamia, Enmen-dur-ana is heralded as the one to whom the gods revealed ultimate secrets. Legend dictates that he acquired vast scientific knowledge from celestial beings, encompassing divine laws, advanced astronomy, and the orbital mechanics of the heavens. So, how exactly did he acquire this knowledge? One theory posits that he communicated with these beings via some form of aerial vehicle. This technological apparatus transported him to the upper atmosphere, enabling him to interact with celestial entities. Interpreted through this lens, his so-called ascension to heaven might not just be a symbolic metaphor. It could denote a literal, physical departure. Perhaps he was transported off-world, or perhaps he entered an entirely different spatial dimension. Regardless of the interpretation, one fact remains undeniably clear. Enmen-dur-ana was no ordinary king. He acted as an operational bridge linking the human world with the realm of the gods. The final king to appear in this segment of the Sumerian King List plays an entirely different historical role. Unlike Enmen-dur-ana, he did not ascend to the heavens, nor did he mysteriously vanish. What makes this king particularly special is that he was the absolute last ruler before the Great Flood. His name was Ubara-Tutu. In the Sumerian King List, he is the last of the 8 antediluvian kings of the ancient era, ruling over a city named Shuruppak. According to official records, his reign lasted for exactly 18,600 years. While this figure still vastly exceeds the biological limits of the human lifespan, it is actually the shortest reign among all the pre-flood kings. Nevertheless, his appearance marks a monumental turning point in the entire historical narrative. The city governed by Ubara-Tutu, Shuruppak, was situated on the banks of the Euphrates River. Astoundingly, this city has been successfully excavated by modern archaeologists, proving it was a completely real, historically verifiable location. Around 3000 BC, this city suffered a truly devastating flood. According to ancient Mesopotamian literary records, including the Eridu Genesis, Ubara-Tutu was also the father of a highly significant historical figure, Ziusudra. In Sumerian mythology, Ziusudra is the direct archetype of the Great Flood survivor, universally recognized as the historical counterpart to Noah. Legend states that when the gods decided to obliterate the world with a deluge, Enki, the god of wisdom, provided advanced warning to Ziusudra, instructing him to construct a colossal vessel to survive the impending cataclysm. This exact sequence of events aligns almost perfectly with the subsequently widespread narrative of Noah's Ark. Because of this, Ubara-Tutu is no longer just a random name on the king list. He became the ultimate symbolic figure of the final epoch before the Great Flood. He represents the definitive end of a world, serving as a distinct boundary line demarcating mythology from verifiable human history. Because immediately following the conclusion of his reign, absolute disaster struck. The Eridu Genesis explicitly states that this cataclysmic flood occurred right after the rule of Ubara-Tutu. The Sumerian King List uses a remarkably brief yet earth-shattering phrase to describe this exact moment in time. The flood swept over. Following that event, everything fundamentally changed. Interestingly, this world-destroying deluge does not exclusively appear in Sumerian mythology. From the Epic of Noah's Ark to Deucalion in Greek mythology and Manu in ancient Hindu scriptures, almost identical legends circulate across wildly divergent civilizations. It is as if, in the distant prehistoric past, a genuine planetary catastrophe truly swept across the entire globe. The story of the Great Flood and the Sumerian King List truly leaves us standing at the edge of a massive historical mystery. Looking back at this entire picture, whether these ancient kings who ruled for tens of thousands of years were extraterrestrial beings, gods descending from the heavens, or simply profound mathematical metaphors, there is a deeply meaningful lesson we can take away from all this. That is, human history and our origins are far vaster, more complex, and infinitely more mysterious than what we often assume. Exploring these ancient anomalies isn't just about satisfying our curiosity. It teaches us absolute humility in the face of the cosmos. It reminds us that our modern civilization might just be a tiny chapter in the massive encyclopedia of Earth. Myths are not always just fairy tales. They might be the disparate echoes of our ancestors, a way to record humanity's incredible resilience and survival through planetary resets. Keeping an open mind and constantly questioning the status quo is exactly how science and human consciousness move forward. Of course, I want to be completely transparent with you all. Everything you've watched in this video is based on my personal perspectives, research, synthesis, and analysis. Therefore, I could be completely right, or I could be totally wrong. Nothing is absolute. That is exactly why I really want to hear from you. What do you guys think about everything we discussed today? Is the Sumerian King List and these 10,000-year reigns real or fake? Do you believe in the ancient alien hypothesis? Or do you think it's all just the vivid imagination of early humans? And before you scroll down to share your theories, let me know. Where in the world are you watching this video from right now? Drop your city or country below. It always amazes me to see how TIAN science connects curious minds from every corner of the globe. Leave your thoughts down below, and let's get a massive discussion going. I'll see you down in the comments. Thank you so much for your continuous support and for exploring the unknown with me here on TIAN Science.